Employees at our watch event in South Padre Island. Hey, Zach, how are things going on the ground?
It is a great day for a test launch today, Kate. Hello, everyone. My name is Zachary Lupin, and I'm an avionics reliability engineer here at SpaceX, and I'm at the Cameron County Amphitheater, where a growing number of SpaceX employees are gathering to watch what we hope is the first liftoff of a fully integrated Starship. Now, the Starship team has worked incredibly hard for today's launch test. Over the past weekend, teams held a launch readiness review, which included a comprehensive review of all of our vehicle systems, looking at avionics, GNC, communications, software, structures, as well as our Raptor engines and propulsion in general. Now, we are only about 5 miles away from the launch pad, so it's a pretty good view for today. And as we get into as we start to approach T-0, everyone here is clearly very excited for the events that are happening today. So as we get closer to T-0, I'm going to throw it back to Hawthorne to talk more about our rocket.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Zach. And we've actually got a little bit of a crowd forming behind us, too. Now, we've got a shot of Starship on the screen. The entire Starship structure you see is made of stainless steel. And when that's fully stacked, it stands about 120 meters tall and about 9 meters around. To help you give a sense of just how big that is, we've captured a video of some of our teams doing final integration prep work in advance of today's test flight.
Just like Falcon 9, Starship has 2 stages, which we will talk a little bit more about in a minute. But in addition to those 2 stages, Starship actually has a 3rd stage called Stage 0. It consists of all the launch pad infrastructure built around the rocket. You can see a great view of it there on your screen. It's truly an engineering feat in its own right.
And I feel like it's something we don't talk about very often. There's a lot of infrastructure that goes into fueling and preparing the launch vehicle before a large test like this, really any launch. Now, let's talk about Super Heavy. The name says it all. It's super, it's heavy, it's super heavy. It goes by some other names, the first stage or the booster, but whatever you call it, the Super Heavy will be the vehicle responsible for powering Starship against that mighty gravitational pull we've got here on Earth. And when it's fully operational, it's going to get Starship to orbit.
The booster alone stands about 70 meters tall and is about the same height as a fully integrated Falcon 9, but with a diameter roughly 2.5 times that of Falcon 9 and with 33 much larger engines.
Yeah, and having those engines, and oh my gosh, I love this shot. We can see looking up into the launch mount at the 33 engines on the booster. Those are each of the Raptor engines that's going to power today's launch attempt.
Yeah, this is an incredible view. One of my favorite views that we're going to get today. We don't have this kind of view on our Falcon 9 launches, so this is so exciting to see. You can even make out the paint markers indicating which engine is which. Like we said, there are 33 of them. So there's a lot of fire that's going to be coming out from those engines in just over 31 minutes from now. As we mentioned before, there are 33 of them on the Super Heavy, the booster, and we don't see it right now, but the cluster in the center are the ones that are actually going to gimbal and help steer the booster back down for its water landing in the Gulf.
Yeah, and they're a little bit different, Kate, than our Falcon engines. So on Falcon, we use a gas generator cycle. Here's a fantastic shot, actually, at the inner stage, so we can see the 6 engines that are on the ship side, 3 gimbaling in the middle, and then the vacuum engines, you can see 2 of them, and the other ones on the other side of the cluster in the middle here. So Raptor's a little bit different. It uses something called stage combustion, which means we basically pre-burn both the fuel side and the ox side, and then get those up to the right temperatures and pressures, and then mix them in the combustion chamber. It allows us to get higher thrust and higher efficiency on these engines than on Falcon 9. Now, Super Heavy also has 4 grid fins to assist with orienting itself during the return back to Earth, as today is the fully integrated flight test, and the first one, we're focusing on safely testing just the fundamental systems and operations on the vehicle. So what that means is we won't be attempting to land on land today. Instead, Super Heavy is going to be making that hard water landing in the Gulf.
Starship, or the spacecraft, is the second stage and makes up the top portion of the vehicle. It's designed for carrying passengers and cargo between destinations on Earth, Earth orbit, and planetary destinations. It stands 50 meters tall, a little taller than the Statue of Liberty. It's comprised of 6 Raptors. We saw those just moments ago. 3 of them are optimized for sea level, and the other 3 are vacuum engines. And like they're wet dress rehearsal.
Yeah, and we've mentioned the term a couple of times here. We call it a wet dress rehearsal because we are wetting the propellant tanks. We are loading propellant into the vehicle. We've talked about the frost line a little bit here. That exercises the stage 0 system, the ground system, all of our infrastructure that loads propellants onto the pad. That exercises our procedures for the mission control teams. We're monitoring telemetry on the mission control consoles, looking at the pressures and the rates and the temperatures. And some of those things look a little bit different when you're getting up to the pre-flight pressurization levels and full propellant load. So we're learning things today about the integrated tests that are going to set us up for success in a future attempt later on, hopefully in the next 48 hours or so. And Kate, like it's also worth mentioning here, we're still going to take the count through to a pretty around the T-minus 10 second mark. So we're really going to exercise everything that we would up until that point in the vehicle states and ground procedures.
Yeah, it's like we said before, any data that we can collect today is super helpful. And that's exactly what we're doing. We are continuing to collect this data and allow the teams to have be better informed for the next attempt. Unfortunately, due to the needing to recycle the propellant, we are looking at a minimum of 48 hours until we are able to attempt this flight test again. So we're not quite sure what that timing will be at the moment, but we're looking at a minimum of 48 hours at this point in time. But Shiva, exactly as you said, things look a little bit different on launch day. And we allowed the countdown to do its job, to basically get to this point, to allow the teams to work through the issues. And we're going to continue, like we said before, we're going to continue all this down all the way to T-minus 10 seconds. And that will really allow the teams to pretend like this is launch day and continue and gather that data.
Yeah, Kate, it's on the one hand, it's a little bittersweet. On the other hand, we watched them go all the way through. First stage propellant load, just now wrapping up. The second stage, even the header tanks up under the nose of the Starship that you can see on the monitors. Actually, that all went very well today. The weather was excellent. Everything was looking good. Sadly, we just have the one issue, but that is letting the team continue to count down. And we're going to continue with it here until we get the clock hold at T-minus 10 seconds.
Yeah, so for those of you that have just joined us, we're now at T-minus 1 minute and 30 seconds to what would have been the launch of our Starship flight test. But unfortunately, due to a stage 1 issue, we are going to utilize today as a wet dress rehearsal. Instead, we are not going to attempt launch. The teams are basically saying that we're scrubbing our launch attempt for today, and we are expecting a minimum of 48 hours in order to recycle. So it's all good news, though. There's nothing really to be sad about other than we had hoped to be able to lift off today, but that's okay.
Now, one thing to point out for folks, when we do come back, when we clear this and we fly, one of the things you'll hear in the last minute, you won't be hearing us because we'll be listening to the countdown. But at T-minus 30 seconds, that's when the flight director would give the final go for launch. Love to have heard that this morning, but something to look forward to.
Absolutely.
The other thing to look at is at T-minus 6 seconds, we begin lighting the engines. Up on your monitor, you can see there, T-minus 40 seconds. We did hit the 40-second hold point, and they are holding for a moment. In the end, they will release that hold. We'll go the last 30 seconds. But yes, when we do get to day of launch, the last thing to look at is in the last 6 seconds, light the Raptor engines in succession. So unlike Falcon 9, we're going to have to do that a little longer. We're hearing right now the clock is going to hold here at T-minus 40 seconds. The Super Heavy and Starship are looking good. So with that, Kate, it's been a fast-paced morning. We got through it fairly quickly. But at this point, we're going to have to call it a morning.
Yeah, that's right. So for those of you that have recently just joined us, we unfortunately had a hold on the countdown today, and that is going to scrub our launch attempt. But we are expecting a minimum of 48 hours in order to recycle. So be sure to keep an eye on our social channels, and we'll share information as soon as it becomes available. Until then, stay safe, and we'll see you soon.
Life. After I simply told a woman that she could not have potato chips because her payment was declined.
we were going ahead for a launch today, which again, it has been scrubbed today, but if we were going ahead with the launch, we would expect to have Raptor engine ignition beginning at T-minus 8 seconds. So about 2 seconds after the test ended today, we would have expected to have engine startup. Again, of course, that has been scrubbed due to a valve issue, and we look forward to finding out future dates.
Yes, which, by the way, Adrian, what exactly is the Fire-X system? Because we're used to just seeing rainbirds pour down water on something like a Falcon 9 or Falcon Heavy.
It's some water spraying down from the OLM. It's that there's a reason why they are probably still working on installing a deluge system in the future. Basically, it's a system that will help them extinguish a bit of fire, suppress probably a bit of power from the engines, but not
Adrian,
that much.
sorry to interrupt. We have a tweet from Elon, a new tweet saying they learned a lot today, but they're now offloading propellant and are retrying in a few days. So
a few days, he says.
that's our current next timeline is a few days. Now, what that means, we don't really know yet.
You know what that means for me?
Yeah,
I'm
I
gonna pack
know.
up some gear and get some sleep.
Yep, that sounds good.
What do you mean? We got plenty tonight.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
Adrian.
Yes, definitely get some sleep to the team that's over there at Starbase. They will now begin the offload procedure of fuel, which, as we were talking about before, there are some recondensers that will attempt to try and save some of the propellant to be used again, but that is a lot of propellant on the vehicle.
And also, another thing to mention too is that, like you said, Sawyer, they're going to lose some of the propellant, the liquid oxygen and liquid methane, to boil off over time, as expected. And they're going to need to replenish that in the tank farm. But over the past few days, we've been seeing some tankers dropping off propellants at the suborbital test site. So it seems that they're using that as a bit of a staging site to have some propellant on standby if needed. I would not be surprised over the coming days to start seeing trucks transferring propellant from the suborbital site to the orbital launch site if they are truly using that as a staging ground. So that's something to keep our eyes out on over the next coming days.
Exactly. And again, we will keep an eye out for when exactly that few days may be and what is necessary in terms of refilling the fuel farms and getting them ready for another attempt. I do also want to thank Ali Demirci here for the 50 gifted Red Team memberships. Really appreciate it. If you did get a gifted membership at any point in this stream, definitely make sure you thank them. And if you do have a Red Team membership or above, whether gifted or that you got yourself, you can still check out our multi-view camera just for those members, and in it you'll be able to see all the different angles as they detank and complete their testing here today. So lots of excitement still going on down there at Starbase despite the scrub. And there's some of those views right now from that multi-view. So that's your little teaser preview of what you can see. And it wipes through. You see we've got 9 cameras on each screen and continuing to cycle through all of the different views, some of which we don't show on air, some of which we don't even show on Starbase Live, which is our 24/7 feed. Oh, man. I know it's a little disappointing. Adrian, this was your first in-person launch attempt here, as well as your first in-person scrub, I guess. So first off, welcome to the launch family. Second off, how are you feeling still, even at this point? Speechless, I tell. He's muted at the moment, maybe a little busy with people where he is. There you go.
Yeah, it's a busy roof. So what was the question again, Sawyer?
First off, welcome to the launch scrub family. You've now seen a launch scrub, which I
Yay.
think most of us have at this point. But how are you feeling after the scrub anyway about getting this far in the count?
I mean, it was still a great experience so far. I really being here all day and then in the morning basically rolling out, preparing everything, and well, then don't get any sleep and be here all night on the roof and then commentating this live it's an experience that, like, no scrub will destroy that. It's still amazing, and I look forward to do all of that again.
Oh yeah.
Hey, I gotta jump in real quick here. Adrian has been running all over Starbase before, or with me actually, in the truck, out on the beach, to every one of our sites, and Adrian has been an absolute trooper out here. You know, he didn't come out and just like, sit around on the beach or anything. Like, he's carrying stuff and helping us put things in it every single time that we had something that we needed help with. Adrian, you have done a fantastic job. So thank you so much for all the hard work out here.
Thanks for the words, and I can say that I think for everyone here that we are walking basically so many kilometers every day, and yes, I use kilometers. It's really something that it's so much effort that you don't see at first. Like, if you're not here and just watch these cameras, there's so much effort that goes into this all day, every day. That you cannot really see if you only see it from the distance.